I'm here with Tom Cameron, the Executive Director for Short Duration Fixed Income with UBS Global Asset Management. Tom, thanks for joining me here today to talk more about your partnership with the BTI.
You're welcome.
UBS is one of 3 investment advisors for the state's Board of Treasury Investments. So tell us a little bit more about your relationship with the BTI and the Treasurer's Office.
Well, it's certainly a long-standing partnership. It's a very unique relationship that we have. It dates back to March of 1990, and then we added the money market pool in March of 1999. The BTI has bid out the contract numerous times. We value the relationship we have with the BTI and its successor organizations, so much so that we want to continue doing business with them. So it's worked out really, really well. We've gone through a lot of economic and financial changes and turmoil that we've all weathered very, very well. So it's really good. It's a unique partnership that I wish we had with a lot of our clients.
Explain why a state investment board should work with a firm like yours.
Well, I think it's all about core competencies. The financial markets have grown extremely complex over the last several years, and state treasurers don't really have the capacity nor the desire to take on the risk of making investment decisions and doing all the credit analysis and everything that needs to go into it. And that is what our core competency is here at Global Asset Management. So the treasurer is tasked with making sure that the state functions economically, and as partner, we are here to help him protect the cash that the citizens of West Virginia have entrusted to the treasurer.
UBS has partnerships with other states, of course, and also has relationships with other state treasuries, right?
Yes, a lot of state and local governments use us in many different ways. But yes, we do. We have not only relationships with state governments, but local governments, counties, school districts, other types of local government entities.
The BTI works with several advisors and investment consultants for layers of protection. Why is that so important?
Well, again, I think it's all about outsourcing core competency and really being a risk manager. I mean, Treasurer Perdue wants to have the best team possible to manage the cash that is entrusted to him, and the staff is excellent in making sure the gears of the Treasury roll, and the staff has also hired a group of vendors that assist them in making sure that occurs. So we're fortunate to be one of them, and we work very closely with the staff to make sure that their cash is safe, that it's liquid when they need it, and then really performance is a byproduct of all that. They're a good group of folks. They're very open-minded. They react well and consider changes in the market, changes in state statutes, and as I said, they're really a good partner.
We already talked about this a little bit, but how does UBS help the BTI make informed decisions?
Sure. Well, the BTI contractually has given UBS Global Asset Management the authority to make the day-to-day investment decisions. However, those day-to-day investment decisions are framed up in an investment policy which the BTI gives to us as a framework to manage their portfolio. And the policy itself is basically born out of state statute. So we manage really at the end of the day within West Virginia state statutes, a subset of which is the investment policy that the BTI gives us, which is sort of our rules of the road.
Does UBS have an investment strategy when it comes to dealing with short-term assets?
We manage for safety principle, full stop. I think that I could speak for all the state treasurers and local government officials across the country that say, they're not going to get stars for making a lot of money, but they're going to get themselves into a jam if they lose money, and we are there to help them not do that.
And when you're talking about a government entity, that's really what it's all about. I mean, the people of this state and of the other states that you work with they want to know that their money's safe, probably above all else, and that's really what UBS can help bring to the table.
Yes, through our over 24 credit analysts and our portfolio management staff of about 9, all of which touch the BTI's accounts in some way, shape, or form. Really, that infrastructure is the foundation for our investment philosophy and process, and for the state of West Virginia or many other state treasurers to replicate that infrastructure is costly, and it's something that the taxpayers' money would probably be well spent doing other things.
And the general public might not realize how much thought and analysis really goes into these short-term investments.
That's correct, and especially since 2008, there's been a lot of turmoil in the short-term investing world, and I'll say that as it relates to the BTI, the portfolios that we manage have come out unscathed. We've, as partners, successfully navigated all the volatility and other issues that a lot of other investors unfortunately encountered firsthand. So we see that as a big success and a testament to the partnership that we have.
A lot of your recommendations to the state really depend on the economy. So what are your thoughts on the market atmosphere in general right now?
Well, I think that our role as managing money for the BTI is not necessarily driven by the economy. The economy is sort of a big blanket that goes over a small portion of the world that we exist in. Our goal, not to sound repetitious, is that making sure that Treasurer Perdue and his team has safety of principle in mind, has the liquidity they need to fund the state operations, and then the yield or the return that we give them is sort of a byproduct of both of those. So if you want to equate yield in the economy, it's sort of sometimes they're in lockstep, other times they're completely disconnected.
How does our current market compare with years past?
I've been in this market for more years than I care to admit, and it's changed a lot, both from a regulatory perspective between Sarbanes-Oxley and Dodd-Frank, and then some of the SEC rules that have changed, and then you layer on top of that some of the financial products that have sort of not performed like they advertised, and then the overall shrinking in supply, which is always a challenge in managing all the assets we have in the money market funds. We're all supply constrained. As an investor, we want to see more supply, but as a fundamental live within your means person, the government is shrinking their balance sheet, which is good.
We know that interest rates are at an all-time low right now. Where do you see them going in the future?
Well, that's hard to determine. I could tell you that it's a battle for basis points now. It's very difficult to find value without significant risk. So again, interest rates are really or yield is more of a function or byproduct of what we get after we make sure that you have safety of principle and you have the liquidity that they need. So interest rates most likely will go up. I mean, they can't go down that much farther. But the Fed has a whole bunch of new tools in their box to manage interest rates. So it'll be interesting to see.
Let's talk about money market reform. The SEC is adopting changes to money market fund regulations. What are some of the changes that will affect us here in West Virginia?
Well, although the BTI's two pools, the money market pool and the government pool, are not regulated money market funds, they are AAA rated by Standard & Poor's, who also rates money market mutual funds. So I think that as the reform sort of materializes, there may or may not be some changes to how S&P's rating criteria goes, but moreover, on a larger scale, GASB is really where the big question mark is, because the pools are not regulated by anybody, and GASB says that if you're an LGIP, you have to be 2A7-like, and I think that's the big question mark as to what is 2A7-like in this new era of money market reform. So Maybe we can have a chat in another 6 months or a year. The implementation for money fund regs, most of them are the more significant ones are about 2 years. So it's a long period between 9 months and 2 years.
And our letter was actually quoted in this rule.
Yes, yes, congratulations. We were going through the new regulations, and everyone sent in comment letters, and we were pleasantly surprised to see the BTI's comment letter quoted as it related to LGIPs and 2A7-like. So congratulations.
And that's a pretty big deal for us too, I think,
Sure.
because you said thousands of letters were
Yes, a lot of letters were received. Local governments are not regulated by the SEC, so the fact that the SEC has considered sort of the knockoff effects or collateral effects of their regulations on other types of 2A7-like or money market fund-like investments like the pools we manage, I think is pretty important and significant.
So what are some of the challenges of managing government funds?
Well, government funds government funds like for governments. Well, I can tell you, safety of principle is always key. I know, when we play this back, it'll be, gosh, this guy talks about safety of principle a lot, but that is key. For state governments, safety of principles is first and foremost. But I will tell you that as an investment manager, the supply of assets that allow us to maintain safety of principle with minimal credit risk and the liquidity that the governments need is becoming more scarce over time. So that is really, I think, the biggest challenge for us is supply. And also, supply is also driven by investment policies. So the BTI has a conservative yet progressive policy, which lets us do our job with a lot more tools in our toolbox. I will tell you that there's other state and local governments that have more conservative and extremely closed investment policies that don't allow them to use all the tools that are out there. It's their choice. It's just the good news for West Virginia is that they have enabled us a decent latitude to do our job as the best we can.
The policies can really be restrictive, though.
Absolutely correct. Yes, yes. And sometimes the policies are easy to change. Sometimes they take literally acts of Congress within the state legislative changes, which are more difficult and more time consuming.
And before we wrap up the interview, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I'd like to thank the BTI for their business and their long-standing partnership with UBS Global Asset Management. I can't say enough how the staff is in terms of working with us, how sharp they are to ask questions, and even if it's not in our scope of work, they may call us up and say, hey, geez, we saw this on the Bloomberg, or I got a call the other day, have you guys seen this before? And we can have an intellectual discussion on it. So we're happy to continue it. We look forward to many more years of the relationship.
All right, Tom Cameron with UBS Global Asset Management. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
being here today.
Thank you.